What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Adam Ronin here for another Ronin review. First off, a couple things. This is a fight stick review. I've said several times that we were done with fight stick reviews. We just can't seem to stay away. This one we were really excited about. This one today we are reviewing the NES30 arcade stick from 8BitDo. We were looking forward to. But before we really get into it, I really want to dedicate this video to one of my best friends, TJ Combo, who I've done every single fight stick video with before. This will be the first one that I've done while he's in Ohio. So, you know, I miss you, buddy, and this one's for you. But let's, first what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the aesthetics of the stick, because that, my friends, is what drew me to wanting this stick, because this is very retro in nature. If you are unfamiliar with what the NES30 arcade stick does, this is primarily a wireless fight stick for your Nintendo Switch. It has other functionalities as well, but that's what drew this to me, because I've got Ultra Street Fighter 2 on the Switch, and I was like, I want to play it as it's meant to be played. But also, it just reminds me of the NES Advantage from the 80s on the NES, which was like basically kind of the first arcade stick of sorts, and this has that retro feel and look to it, and regardless of functionality and feel and play, this gets a buy from me because it's the way it looks on the shelf. So getting in a little bit more, so it's got a nice flat finish here. So a lot of the sticks that we've been talking about lately, and really almost all the sticks that we've reviewed and had in our hands have a glossy finish to them. So it's like a lot of them, like the Dragon, for example, the Obsidian, Fingerprint Central, whereas this one has a nice matte finish, which is I actually like aesthetically and to the feel in the hand. So that's a cool look. You've got the stark red buttons that really stand out amongst the stick. We'll talk about the buttons here in a little bit. And you know, one thing to note, we'll just talk about it right off the bat, is a lot of you have been asking us if we're going to review Mayflash sticks. We kind of are, because this stick is basically a carbon copy of the Mayflash F300. So if you are familiar with that stick, you have a really good idea of what this stick looks and feels like. So let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes. Like I mentioned before, you know, if you're familiar with the Mayflash F300, this is almost a carbon copy of it. Now, we can't really say if this is made from Mayflash parts, but it's definitely, I would venture to guess so, but we can't really say for sure. But if you have a Mayflash 300, you're probably pretty familiar with how this feels. One thing to note, it's like I've got a really weird mixture of, is this cheap? Is it not cheap? Because while it does feel very plasticky, buttons more so, it's got a decent weight to it. So this is for you, those of you that grew up on the metric system, this is 1.4 kilograms. But for those of us really dumb Americans, this is a good hefty 3 pounds. So this is like a real solid, like, build your own burger from like this crazy steakhouse. It's just like, whoa, it's crazy huge. It's nice, it feels good. But let's get into these buttons. So we're gonna kind of start talking about maybe some of the flaws at this point, because the buttons are straight trash. These are probably proprietary buttons. They're definitely not Sanwas or Sametsus or anything crazy like that. These are very weird, cheap, flimsy plastic buttons. So for those of you that are really into fight sticks and really playing the best of the best, these buttons are not going to suit you. You're not going to enjoy them. Same with the stick. It's a flimsy plastic stick. But the good news is you can change out the buttons. So they may have thought ahead of that, especially if this was a Mayflash, you can unscrew the back of it and the buttons can be swapped out, as can the stick. So, you know, you can mod it to a degree to suit your playstyle and really put in stuff that you feel comfortable playing on. So speaking of modability, we did pop this bad boy open. So standard sticks has got 6 screws. You unscrew, pull it off, and the first thing you'll notice if you're familiar with Mayflash, it looks identical to the Mayflash F300 inside, but you can change out the buttons as you would on any other stick, and you can change the stick as you would on any other stick. The only thing difference between this and the Mayflash 300 is they got rid of the compartment for the cable, because this is a wireless stick, mostly. I say mostly because, so this is being marketed as, and I bought it for the Nintendo Switch. Now on the Nintendo Switch, it is only Bluetooth capable. So you can't plug in the cable to the Switch, or it strictly goes right into a charging mode and becomes unplayable. There is a firmware update coming out that will allow you to play it with the charging cable in it, but that is not, at the time of filming this video, available. However, if you're going to play this on your Raspberry Pi, if you have one, cue link to our video, or your PC, for PC gaming, you would plug it in via the charging cable. You know it's charging because this will go flashing green LED. So it is primarily a wireless stick if you're using it for consoles, and I say consoles with cool little quotation marks because it is only for the Nintendo Switch. It's not compatible with the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what if I use a Brook converter? I can't speak for that. So I've been pretty vocal in the past. I'm not a huge fan of Brook converters, so I no longer have one to do the test with. But by all means, if you have tested this and you know, please put in the comment section, because we're really unsure of how that might work, but I'm thinking you're not going to get great results with it. So going back, I really just want to reiterate on these buttons. We're not sure exactly where they came from. I want to say they're proprietary 8BitDo buttons, but I'm sure they've outsourced to some third-party company, but they're definitely not Sanwa's or the buttons that you are used to. So, if you're a pro player and you want to use this in something more, you definitely need to upgrade the buttons. I'm going to leave them stock because for me, it suits my purpose of playing Street Fighter 2 on the couch with my buddies. Lag is pretty heavy on this, as you can see in the video. I don't have exact time signatures of how much lag there is. I don't have a way of measuring that, but you can see over the overlay here, there's a significant amount of lag there. Something that I would actually find with a Brook converter, the type of lag that I would get on a converter, is what I get straight wireless from here. Now, when we plugged this into the PC and we were playing Slice, Dice, and Rice, it seemed like, since it was wired, obviously, that it was reduced that lag quite a bit, but we don't have like a great game on the PC to test that with, so it's kind of up in the air, but I do think that the lag is reduced on wired, as you would expect. The buttons are laid out as a PlayStation would be. So even though it's marketed as a Nintendo Switch stick, when we went in, we had to reconfigure the buttons to be a specific way, and we did have a little bit of an issue because these aren't labeled as Nintendo buttons, so we had to be like, so this goes here, and like that GIF where it comes up and all the mathematics schemes are there, and you're like, what? That's kind of what it was like to get these buttons mapped properly for Street Fighter 2. It's interesting that they're labeled as PlayStation buttons when this has no compatibility with PlayStation, but it's really a non-issue because you can get it figured out. Other buttons include your start button, which is, use the start. Also paired with when you press Y is how you turn on the stick. Has a pairing button, as a select button, turbo button, which all fight sticks have. And then you got your X and Y, which we had to switch up to when we were playing Slice, Dice, and Rice for just backwards and forwards movement. And then D-pad, which we had it set to when we were playing Street Fighter 2. And you got your D input and an XY input switch here. So when we so the pairing button, when we paired this to the Nintendo Switch, while it didn't give us any issues, it could have been a much better experience. It did take us a couple tries to get it paired with the Switch when we first did it by turning it on, and you have to hold this for a few seconds till it's blinking, then you have to hold the pairing button till it's flashing, then you have to go into the menus in the Switch, which is all kind of archaic as it already is. So pairing it was a little bit cumbersome, but nothing crazy. The update that's coming out with the Switch later does make an instant pairing when you plug in the cable, so that'll be nice. In case that's cumbersome for you, you've got a thing. Since this is a wireless stick, there is a lithium-ion battery in here that 1 to 2 hours of charge will give you about 18 hours of play. So it's a nice trade-off there. When I took this out of the box to play it for the first time, the battery is fully charged, so that's kind of cool. So if you want to talk about some comparisons, we're not going to do a shootout video with this, but if you're talking apples to oranges, I think an interesting comparison for this would be the Hori Mini, the Hori Fighting Stick Mini, just because of the proprietary buttons on there aren't anything what you'd expect. That doesn't really have any great modding capabilities. That is a $40 stick. This is an $80 stick, so you could also compare this with like the Mad Catz Alpha, which is maybe actually a better comparison. Also really compared good with the Kwamba Drone. However, I would still put those in a pro stick category, while for beginners to a degree, this is kind of a whole nother category in its own. This is a very casual level stick because you've eliminated tournament use by having a wireless stick. While that's cool at home, it's going to get you no functionality at a tournament or a fight night anywhere, especially with the interesting pairing methods that you have to have on the Switch. So if you've got like a fight night at an arcade somewhere that you want to go and they're having the Switch thing, you can bring it. I don't know what their rules would be, but people would be frustrated waiting for you to pair your controller. So this is to me, I think this is a stay-at-home stick for people like you and me that want to sit on the couch, have a beer, and play some old school fighting games. Totally, it's awesome. And I'm gonna keep it, I like it, it's gonna look sweet on my shelf. And when Gordy comes over and when Timmy eventually comes back over, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna play some Street Fighter, we're gonna have fun. But I will not take this to Evo or any fight nights. And I probably won't go anyway. What do I think about this stick in a nutshell? Is it worth $79.99? Yeah, I think it is. If you're looking for something nice to have on your shelf that looks cool, that you can also play Ultra Street Fighter 2 with some buddies when they come over, totally, it's super cool, and it's really one of the only options you have for the Switch. So, yeah, I think it's totally worth it. Buttons, like I say, if you're an enthusiast, definitely change them out, and it's not a big deal to do so. If you're familiar with modding your sticks, it should be no big deal. I'm going to keep mine stock just because it's not a big deal to me. Yeah, but you know what, guys? If you have anything further, please put them in the comments. Before you even write in the comments, in case you didn't see it before, yes, we will be reviewing the Panthera here shortly. Probably sometime in September, we'll take a look at that. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter. And guys, if you want to support the channel even further and be part of something bigger, join the Ronin 24/7 meta game where you can earn real life XP, get your very own avatar, and be part of the Ronin family at patreon.com/R24. God damn it, Gordy, what should they do with that subscribe button?
Press it.
Mm-hmm. That's what you should do. Go, I gotta tell you what. Yeah, just subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends, well, they got some good damn fight stick videos, but goddamn, the rest of their content's pretty sweet. I'll tell you what. All right.